Dan. It's
How
morning
are
for me.
you? It's morning
I'm
for you.
good.
Where are you? Where are you stationed right now?
I'm in the US. I'm in New York.
Fantastic. I literally just got back from Dubai a couple hours ago. I'm back in Israel, and good evening to all our viewers in Israel, in Morocco, and good afternoon to all our viewers in the United States or wherever you are around the world. Welcome to Deep Dive number one, or actually our second installment of the Sharaka's Morocco Israel Collaboration Hub, which we are doing in partnership with the amazing Shama Mijdali, who is joining us. How is everyone on your side doing now? I know we had some COVID issues, I guess, everywhere these days. How is everyone feeling?
Yes, everybody has COVID these days. In fact, one of our panelists couldn't join us today because of COVID. So we wish him a speedy recovery, Karim Amor. And actually, we have others who are sick and some of them with COVID who are joining. So props to them. It's pretty serious these days. So I urge everyone to stay safe. Welcome, everybody, to our second event, our second discussion. This one's going to be the first deep dive in one sector, in one field. And today we're focusing on large-scale investments between Morocco and Israel. And we have a really stellar panel with us today, so I'm really excited to introduce everyone. Dan,
Indeed, we do.
would you do us the pleasure of starting with our first panelist, our dear
We
friend?
do. Before we do that, I would love to say a word about. Um, I'll say a word about Sharaka and what we're doing here, and then we'll kick off with. It really is a fantastic panel of speakers that we have here tonight, and throughout this entire series, I must say, from Morocco and from Israel, and also a few from other parts of the world who are joining us. Sharaka, which for those who don't speak Arabic means partnership in Arabic, is a non-for-profit, non-governmental organization founded by young leaders from Israel, from the Gulf, and now joining us also from Morocco, to bolster the Abraham Accords and take it from the governmental level to the level of the people to people, to make it relevant for the 99% of us, to make it a part of our lives, whether through culture or through business or through the arts, or just through everyday life. How can we take these efforts and expand them as much as possible and make it relevant and relatable? So that's really what we're trying to do. And this series, this online series, which Shama will expand upon in a second, is after a year of working to build with the UAE and with Bahrain, who signed on, the first two countries to sign on these accords with Israel. We're now looking at Morocco. I just got back in from Dubai, where we signed an amazing memorandum of cooperation with the UK Abrahamic Accords Group, a bipartisan parliamentary group dedicated to expanding the accords in the Middle East, bringing the UK, who's an important player in international affairs and economic affairs, coming into the region, and also working with us to help bring this message to the UK. And we had a fantastic ceremony in which the ambassador of the UAE to the UK was there, and of course Dr. Liam Fox, former Minister for International Trade and Defence Minister, who chairs the UK Commission, and signed the agreement with us. So exciting news on Sharaka front for what we're doing throughout the region. Shama, do you want to tell our viewers and listeners what this series is and what it's going to look like going over the next couple months? I think we lost your audio, Shama.
Sorry, guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Beautiful. So, absolutely, Dan. And after a year or so of talking to potential partners and real partners on the ground, regionally and in the West, and identifying gaps and challenges, but also possibilities and potential, we figured that even despite COVID and despite the challenges that that poses, it's about time to start the conversation so that we can really kind of hone and really narrow our focus on what is realistic and what can be done to address socioeconomic, cultural, social, and all kinds of challenges that stand either as barriers to peace and security and prosperity to the region, or that we could foresee as potential barriers and challenges in the future. And how do we all come together to solve some of the issues that are really affecting the 99%, the majority of the population, so that everybody can be beneficial and everybody can support the work and the agenda of the peace plans that are being endorsed by governments across the region. And due to the leadership, really visionary leadership of governments in the region. So with that being said, we'd love to introduce one of our key partners whom I've had the pleasure to meet last year in November on a Sharaka trip to the Bay Area in California. And Dan was the favor of introducing our dear friend.
I would be glad to. So we are thrilled to introduce a gentleman, a diplomat, and a gentleman and a scholar who Shem and I had the honor to get acquainted with. Shlomi Kaufman, who is Israel's Consul General to the Pacific Northwest. Before that, he's been there since 2017. Before that, he was a policy advisor to the Deputy Foreign Minister in Israel. He's had a illustrious 20-year diplomatic career where he served all around the world, and especially in East Asia. And part of his job, as you can imagine, representing Israel in San Francisco and Silicon Valley and Seattle and all of these places, is also interacting with the high-tech scene and tech executives. And some of the meetings that we had that Shlomi introduced us to was with, for example, Safra Katz of Oracle, or Google execs, other high-tech or biotech execs from across the area. And we asked Shlomi to join us here to speak about bringing in the international component, bringing in the American component, and how the business world and the tech world especially can be one of the key factors in helping bring our countries together in peace and bring prosperity really to the entire region. So Shlomi, thank you so much joining us, I'm assuming from San Francisco.
Absolutely, Dan. Shama, it's so good to see you, and thank you for the invitation, Dan. It's great to see you again. It's I'm having flashback to your visit here, an incredible visit, and something that we all enjoyed, and it was really one of the I would say the highlight of this year, at least for me, and having guests, special guests with special events, with special message, and it was really phenomenal. So it's really great to see you. Great to see you here, and thank you again for the opportunity to invite me and speak to your audience. I think the carrying and continue to carry this message is super important, and it's beyond just another task. It's a very important mission. It's a very important goal for me personally and professionally. So I'm happy to be part of it. So going back to November, for going back to your visit, I think that one of the strongest impressions is the interest that business community and people showed in different events that we had. As to what are the opportunities that the Abrahamic Accord and this peace is opening, and we need to, as you mentioned earlier, it's not just it's a peace which was signed by governments, but it penetrated top down. But now I think is the top down is also supporting what the governments have created. So it basically works top down and bottom up, and we ought to do that. And we saw that really in the meeting that we had with Safra Katz and other meetings with community leaders, how much people are looking into opportunity. Hey, wait a minute, maybe we can start operating with Israel or in the frameworks of this agreement, economic agreements that were created as part of the Abraham Accord, we can find new opportunities for us as well, which are carrying and supporting this message. One of the interesting delegations that took place, I think in December, was of Indian American business people from an organization called In Diaspora that visited UAE and they visited UAE and met with the Israeli representatives, with American representatives, with Indian representatives, and with, of course, local representatives to see how they can get involved and how they can support and what are the opportunities they can find. So I think the business community is definitely showing an interest as distances got shortened and new doors have been opened since the agreements took place. And what I think we need to continue doing is to encourage more and more exposure of or emphasis of the importance of Abraham Accords and what are the opportunities here in the U.S. And I think with more activities here on the ground, we'll definitely have more interest and more business people, business community getting interested in that. And what we see here, Shama, thank you for putting this picture. It's a meeting with Member of Congress Ohana, who is from Indian descent, who showed a great interest in the delegation and how Abraham Accords are basically bringing these young professionals and hopeful people together to support the peace effort.
Thank you so much, Shlomi. And yeah, the connection there and the possibility for bringing in the business community from the U.S., now from the U.K. after having signed that accord, and from other countries as we're able to bring them in, I think can only bolster this. And the more multidimensional, multi-layered we make these peace accords, the stronger they're going to be, and the more people they can benefit and they can touch. Shama, are we ready? Is our next guest with us, or did you want to ask a question here?
I would love to ask our dear friend Shlomi if you can just speak to some of the feedback that you've received after that trip, and if you can tell us a little bit about the sort of the business and tech entrepreneurship community that you're in touch with on a daily basis. What were some of their impressions? How do they feel about the Abraham Accords? Are they ready to sort of leverage resources and their networks to support projects that advance peace and prosperity in the region, and particularly in Morocco, since we are on a Morocco Israel discussion today?
Well, Shama, thank you. Well, absolutely. Look, when we organized the delegation, we knew one thing, that this region is familiar with Abraham Accords, but it doesn't know really too much about the opportunities and what are the doors it can open. And what we discovered, we heard during the visit, but also after, how much of an interest people are showing in working, because supporting Abraham Accords, it's not, or working in Morocco and in other places, it's not just doing business, but it's also supporting, doing it for good and for the peace in the region, for prosperity. When you have peace, you have a thriving economy. So definitely there is a huge interest from the tech community, from business community. We had several Jewish business people here who spoke with us how they can do, how they can work in the region, and what are the new opportunities. So we are definitely.
I think we lost your feed for a second, but you seem to be back.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Shlomi.
Yeah. No, I'm saying that we definitely look. We with Omicron, things got a little bit, um, kind of delayed. But we definitely heard from many people that were part of the meetings with Sharaka, that of the interest that they can, of the interest to explore new opportunities in Morocco and in other places in the Middle East, based on the Abraham Accord. So I'm saying we're definitely on the right track, and we'll continue to do so to support it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And we are going to move on to our keynote speech. As I hear Mr. Ohana is with us. So it is my absolute pleasure and joy to introduce a dear friend, Mr. Amir Ohana, who's a member of the Knesset, who formerly served as both Minister of Justice and Minister of Public Security. He was born in a Moroccan family in the city of Beersheba, a deeply Moroccan city in the Negev Desert in the south of Israel. Amir, thank you so much for accepting my invitation. You were one of the first ministers to call your Moroccan partner, former Minister of Interior, Mr. Abdul El-Wafi Mahmoud, and perhaps you can begin by telling us how it felt to live through that historic moment when the peace accords were signed and what it has meant for you personally.
Thank you, Shama. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am asking for your forgiveness that I was late. I just joined a session and I am on my way right now to the southern city of Netivot in Israel. We are having it's like a small festival for one of the most important rabbis that we have in Moroccan Jewry, Baba Sali, Rabbi or Rabbi Israel Abu Hsira, who is originally from Tafilalt, and now we are mentioning his memorandum. And so please forgive me both for being late and second for the quality. I am not sitting in my office. I am on my way in the streets. I want to thank Shama for this invitation and for this conversation. One of the most exciting meetings I had in the Knesset was with Shama when you were visiting, and it was a pleasure for me to see the beautiful art that you make, and to hear the voices and the tastes and the views of Morocco, which I have never visited, but I have heard so much about, because both of my parents came from Morocco. My father was originally from a small village near Marrakesh called Ouled Znagia. I don't know if it still exists, but he's coming from there. And my mother is from Wazan. But my father, when he was very young, they moved from Marrakesh to Rabat. So when he was a child and a teenager, he grew up in Rabat. So he knows it very, very well. And hopefully, next month, we are coming for the first time with my parents and with my brothers to visit Morocco. And you know, throughout the Abraham Accords, Israel signed treaties with 4 Arab Muslim countries, which is a great deal for us. We have yearned for peace even before the state was established. You know, in Judaism, peace, shalom, Oseh Shalom Bimromav is a very big thing. Is a very big inspiration. It's a very big aspiration. And to have 4 peace treaties with Arab Muslim countries at the same year was a big thing. But if I have to be honest, the conversation that I had with the former minister Abdel Wafi Al-Fatit was so moving, and it made me so happy because I had a chance to speak with a minister of the country where my family comes from. It was a very warm conversation. Maybe some of you heard it. I think it went out to the net. And it is something I will always cherish. And to have these kind of relationships, these kind of connections that we are doing right now between Israelis and Moroccans is a dream come true. And I will always do my best. You know, right now it's a very awkward situation. Likud, which is the party I'm a part of, headed by our former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, got 30 seats, which is the largest party by far from any other party. But still, we are in the opposition. We are not a part of the coalition. The coalition is contained by small parties that gathered together to take down Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud. But we expect it to be a short period until we come back to our government. But nevertheless, as a parliamentarian, as a member of Knesset, I asked immediately to join the friendship group of Morocco and Israel. It's raining heavily right now here, so maybe you hear the noises. It's a very heavy rain. So I am a part of the friendship group of Israel and Morocco. Hopefully, a visit would follow, or maybe your parliament members would come to visit us, or we come to visit them, or maybe both. And although I'm not a businessman currently, I'm a parliamentarian, I think you are businessmen, or at least some of you, and we will do our best to make it easier to build bridges between Israelis and Moroccans, to prosperity, to have very strong ties, cultural ties, economic ties, even security, because unfortunately we do face a mutual enemy which threatens our world, and we do have a lot to share. We are very strong when it comes to counterterrorism, because unfortunately we have known many terror attacks. So this is also something that we will willingly share, and we do share with you. And I am open for any questions you may have. I hope I will have the possibility to answer, but I want to congratulate each and every one of you for participating in this conversation, for taking part of building those relations between Israel and Morocco. And please see me as a friend and as a partner for that, for building bridges between our two countries, between our two nations, which I am fully committed to. Thank you. Thank you, Shama,
Thank you
and
so
thank
much.
you to all of the participants.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ohana. And I just have to add that maybe you didn't go into business, but you have some distant family members. Perhaps they did, because today we have a businessman from Morocco named Mr. Steve Ohana. So other members, maybe your distant cousins got into the business. And we totally understand why you ran late today. I'm going to share
Shama,
my
I have to be honest. it's a very heavy rain, so I can't hear nothing. I I will I think I will have to leave
I,
now. But
well,
if
thank you
any
so
of
much.
you would like to be in touch with me, Shama has all the details, and you are more than welcome to be in touch with me, and I will gladly reply and give assistance to everyone who needs it. And I have to say goodbye right now because I really can't hear you. So
Thank you so much,
thank you
Amir.
for
And
this
we welcome you
hospitality.
to Morocco anytime.
Uh, Next month, I'm going to be in Morocco next month, hopefully. So I hope to see Shama and many other friends. And I wish you a good evening, good night, and a very happy weekend. Thank you.
Much. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And with that, we will move to introduce some of our panelists today. We're going to start with a deep analysis of the economic landscape in Morocco and an analysis of the possibilities of collaboration between Morocco and Israel, looking at what has been done so far and what remains to be done. And with us to facilitate this discussion is Einat Levy, a dear friend who is the economic chargé d'affaires at the Israeli Liaison Office in Rabat. Einat is the daughter of Moroccan immigrants to Israel and was an entrepreneur, a researcher, and a scholar of Moroccan-Israeli relations and history before she started formally working in diplomacy. She moved to Morocco before the peace accords were even imaginable to unearth a wealth of Jewish history and Jewish life that rarely made the headlines. Einat also wrote a great piece on Moroccan-Israeli economic cooperation for the esteemed Israeli think tank Mitvim, which is available online. You can look it up, and I really recommend it to our audience if they want to understand the economic relationship further. Einat, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. It's
Beautiful.
نهار كبير هذا. This is a great day. Yeah, 'cause,
Thank you so much.
we've been knowing each other for a long time now.
For a
So
long
we meet in different occasions, and who knows what will be in a few years, huh?
Indeed. Lots of changes. Thank you so much for joining us. The floor is yours. I understand you're also sharing with us a presentation.
Yes, I'm going to do it now. Just let
Amazing.
me know that you see my screen.
Beautiful. For the dorks amongst us, this is going to be a treat.
Thank you so much. So I think I want to use this opportunity to do something that we don't usually do, is to give you a peek to our table, to our desktop, to what's going on in our daily work and what we are engaged with in matters of economic ties between Israel and Morocco. And I think the beginning is with this beautiful question. At least I had to ask myself when I started the position, is how do we connect economies of two countries? I think it's not like an obvious answer to this question. And eventually we came up with some kind of a formula that is built of 4 milestones. The first one, we figured out we have to start with mutual learning process of the new markets, because these are new markets. And it's true that Israel and Morocco has been knowing each other culturally, in civic ties, but in matters of economic ties, we are starting almost from scratch. And the image that Israelis have about Morocco and Moroccans of Morocco has about Israel is very narrow. For example, for the Israelis, it's stuck somewhere in the 50s or the 60s, because we remember, or we were told by our grandparents, by our parents, if we have Moroccan roots, about Morocco from back then. But Morocco has gone a huge development, especially in the recent decades, and we have to learn. And on the other side, like, Israelis are portrayed in Morocco the way the media covers it. And sometimes it narrows narrows it down to Jewish heritage or the conflict, and we want to expand it. I think it was the major milestone of this year, which I will elaborate later on. The second milestone is laying down economic infrastructure and paving the way for the private sector. This is the real thing. We are not there yet. We have a long way to go, but we're working, first of all, on the set of agreements, as we will see later. The third milestone is creating and promoting spaces for doing business. This is also should not be taken for granted. There are no spaces like this almost existing today, and with the COVID and everything, the restrictions, it becomes one of the biggest challenges, but we will see a few examples of what did happen anyways. And the first and the last milestone is identifying and leveraging opportunities, and I will add the right opportunities, because what we found out during this year is that there is potential almost in all the sectors. It's a win-win between the two countries, and the challenge is actually choosing the right ones. And I want to show you a little bit what has been done in the matters of mutual learning, which totally characterized the last year. Already in February, we had a first webinar organized by the Export Institute for Israeli exporters who wanted to enter the Moroccan market. It was the first thing, the first step. Then in May, there was a research, comprehensive economic and business environment of Morocco and opportunities for collaboration. I had the honor to write it together with Noah Simon, and it's available actually for purchasing in the Export Institute to whoever is interested. It's the first one that has been written since the 90s. Then in September, we had the second webinar for the Israeli exporters following this research. And in October and November, what happened is we moved one step forward, and we had two webinars together with Moroccan and Israeli experts for Moroccan and Israeli exporters. And one of the big achievements, in my opinion, was the fact that we could collaborate, and you could see a great cooperation between different parties, including ministries like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of country, the Ministry of Economy and Industry, the Ministry of Regional Cooperation, the Export Institute, Federation of Israeli Chambers of Commerce, CGM, AMDI, Manufacturers Association. It's a great success for this year. The second milestone I will elaborate a little bit is the infrastructure. It's very important. We still have a lot to do in this sense, but I'm happy to say, I think no one mentioned it before officially, but there is open trade between Israel and Morocco already. And in August 2021, actually the first container arrived from Israel to Morocco was mahia, arak. And it's so traditional because Jews used to make it in Morocco since the beginning of times in Morocco. So we really like it. We hope it will expand. And in matters of numbers, I did a little bit of a calculation of all the deals that happened this year, including the G2G, the G2B, the B2B, and we are somewhere around 800 million dollars to even 1 billion, but we'll have to see because some of the deals are not known. But it's a huge progress because just a year before it was around 8 million. So you cannot compare, and the potential is great. What else? I think there is a huge importance of official visit. We had some of them this year, 3 big ones. One, the Director General of the Israeli Foreign Ministry, Mr. Alon Oshpiz, in July, and then 1 month later, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yair Lapid, was in Morocco as well, and then in November, Minister of Defense, Gantz, and it all helps bring what we call the green light for the promotion of relations, and it's especially important in Morocco. And we are looking forward also to the visit of Ms. Ohana Barbibai, the Israeli Minister of Economy, that was postponed because of Corona. In matters of agreements, and I'm talking only about the economic agreements because we signed a lot of agreements this year, they are still waiting to be signed. First of all, the economic framework agreement, which is ready. Once we'll have the visit of the Minister of Economy, it will be signed. Then the customs agreement, promoting and protection of investment, double taxation avoidance, and phytosanitary joint declaration that helps in all matters of agricultural yield and trade relating to these goods, and direct link between the banks. All of these are on a table, some of them already very advanced. We are just about to sign, and some of them are still in negotiation, and we really hope that this year we will be able to finalize all of this. The last thing about infrastructure this year was building the network. We put a lot of effort in creating connections in Morocco with the right kind of bodies, with the ministries, with the regional authorities. There are 12 regions in Morocco and a lot of opportunities there. The governors, regional investment centers, CGM, of course, we will hear from Steve Ohana soon, and so on. Now, related to the spaces for doing business, as I said, it was one of the biggest challenges this year, but we did have a few rays of light. One of them was the SE-STEP conference. I think it was the biggest economic event of the year because of the regulations, but because they were able to do it in a hybrid way. It was physically in Casablanca, and the main goal was to move the industry in Morocco from traditional to Industry 4.0. And they decided, the team of the conference decided to dedicate one workshop about how Morocco can benefit from the Industry 4.0 technology ecosystem in Israel. And the session was held live from Tel Aviv, from the Startup Nation Central Hub, and it was a great experience. Another event happened totally online. It's the Foodie Show. It's the first virtual international food trade show. The third time it happens every 6 months. Whoever is interested in agribusiness and everything related to that, you should take a note of this because it's a great platform that enables the B2B businesses to go on even though there is Corona. And the last I want to mention is the Expo, of course. Although it does not happen in Morocco or in Israel, it enables the meetings between businessmen from Israel and Morocco, and it's a great space. I know we don't have a lot of time. I will just point out like my 10 most highest potential for cooperation between Israel and Morocco in matters of sectors, and these are the agriculture and agribusiness, the aviation and aerospace. In Morocco, there is a big civil industry. In Israel, it's a little bit more related to defense, but still there is a lot of potential there. Automotive technology related to automotive products, but the manufacturing is happening in Morocco, and there are a lot of factories in this sense, a lot of potential. The textile, thanks to its importance in the Moroccan market and for fostering job opportunities. Water, I know that there are still remote areas in Morocco that has this big challenge, and Israel had made a big path in this. Renewable energies, Morocco is an entrepreneur in this, is one of the biggest developers of renewable energies, has the Noor plant in Ouarzazate, the biggest solar plant, wind farms, etc. Digital transformation, offshoring, thanks to the human resource in Morocco, can have a lot of potential. Mobile and smart cities, and homeland security and cyber. I think we saw some deals published in the media about this. And if I want to sum it up a little bit, so there is the logo of AMDI in Morocco, a big campaign going on now, made in Morocco. So let's add to it and innovated by Israel. I think it's a really great combination. I will sum up with some ways to enter the Israeli or the Moroccan market on one slide. It's either the ministries, like the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, our embassies, either the Israeli one in Morocco and the Moroccan one in Tel Aviv, the Ministries of Economy, of Trade and Industry, all of them publishing tenders and opportunities on their websites. The Ministry of Regional Cooperation in Israel is very, very active these days in creating funds and opportunities for collaboration in all fields, also in economy. The new development model of Morocco, if you read carefully there, you will find great opportunities. Of course, AMDI and the Israel Export Institute and also the Foreign Trade Administration, all of them are doing more of the same, export, import, allocating investments. You can apply to them to search for the opportunities. CGM, the one who is the big federation of all the federations of the private sector in Morocco, a great source. Also the the regional centers of investments in each of the 12 regions of Morocco. Each of them can lay down the opportunities for you. If you're an Israeli enterprise, wanted to enter the Moroccan market and Africa, it's Casablanca Finance City. But I know the time is short. It's just some ideas, and I want to sum up saying that anyone who has interest in entering the Israeli market or the Moroccan market, our door at the embassy is open. And thank you, guys from Sharaka, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Einat. That was comprehensive, and not just for the nerds among us, although the nerds among us definitely did enjoy that. Shama, are you back with us?
Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Einat. That was
My pleasure.
really incredible. Very, very informative. And as a reminder, Einat is super social on all the social media platforms, especially on Facebook. So if you want to connect with her, just type her name and she'll come up on Facebook. She also runs a very popular Morocco Israel Facebook group. So I would also direct you there. And next, coming up, we have a financial analyst. I'm really excited to have him on board. Mr. Najib Soumour is a financial analyst, economist, professor at multiple prestigious schools in Morocco, and has been a visiting professor all over the world. He teaches in the International University of Rabat. He teaches in public schools in Casablanca and Rabat and across the country. And he was part of the team scouted by Ban Ki-moon to develop the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, commonly known as the SDGs. He's also a media celebrity who's often invited to comment on the state of the Moroccan economy, and is originally from Beni Mellal, a city in central Morocco that once had a very strong, thriving Jewish community. Najib, can you hear us? Beautiful. Can you hear us, Najib?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Manishma.
Amazing. Bismillah.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. I guess that it's a symbolic opportunity for me because I have many elements in my life linked to Jewish culture. According to, as you said, I am from Beni Mellal, and in this time I remember that many neighbors of my family was Jewish, and in this dynamism we learned a lot. And I want to just tell you that today is the Amazigh New Year in Morocco. It's an important opportunity that show how Moroccan in different from different religions and from different cultural background are united today to celebrate this new year. And I want to also say that in some parts of the celebrations are from the Jewish culture, and For that, I think that we should invest on the historical background to build new framework of partnerships between our two countries. I don't know if there is two other countries that have the many common point like Morocco and Israel. But what is important is that now we have to shift the gear and go on a high speed to build more pragmatic partnership to initiate a new era of development, peace, and security in the region, and to give lessons to other countries that when we ally with the best practices, and when we invest on the cultural background, we can do many big things. So when we talk about Morocco and Israel, I think it's really a huge scale of opportunities. It's also a way that can help the region, the MENA region, to develop many partnerships, and to also allow to the young people in the region to live in best conditions and to develop the quality of life. Morocco is a country, is an ambitious country with many centuries of existence, but also it's a country with the special dynamism in the last 20 years. And we want in our country to build the co-development partnerships with Africa, with many African countries, and also with many friends from the worldwide, like United States, Gulf countries, Israel, and European countries. Now we have a new development model with the new ambition to reach some good indicators in 2035, and this new model of development are the best practices for new strategies to implement in Morocco, and to help the policy makers, decision makers, to build good programs and good policy initiatives to develop the indicators of development of Morocco in what I call the package of sustainable development, which is the economic, social, and environmental dimensions. I think that with this, I also want to tell you that we developed in our country a big infrastructure that link the main regions with highways, with the port, with airports, and also with the highest speed train in Africa, and I think is number 5 in the world. So this train show how Morocco is moving forward to a better future. I think that if any investor in the world want to invest and look for an opportunity, I guess it's Morocco. And why it's Morocco? We have, I think, 3 main opportunities that any investor in the world look to invest on. The first one is that we are the door of the most important free trade agreement zone in the world, which is ZLECAf, African Free Trade Zone, with 1.3 billion of consumers and with a lot of opportunities in the future. And also we are the most linked country, Mediterranean country, to the African countries, and we are the first investor in Africa. So I think that for the Israeli investors, Morocco is a real door to look for a positioning in the African market. And when we talk about the African market, it's a market open to technology, to artificial intelligence, to industry, automobile industry, textile, healthcare industry. And in Morocco, we have the platform for all these sectors to invest on, and to make a real value added in the future, and to create what I call, it's a hope. I wish that we can have a common value chain between Morocco and Israel. As our friends said, it's made in Morocco by an Israeli invention. It's a good thing, and also we can do something also for Israel. But the most important is that together we can create good value for the two countries, and we can give a lot of best practices to the region, because I think it's really important in the future. Morocco has the ambition to go a step further while being the most attractive destination to invest in the region. And this ambition is supported by a new identity. It's Morocco Now. And Morocco Now reflects the kingdom vision, its youth dynamism, and also the industrial innovation that we have in our country, and also what we developed from the independence until now, and the entrepreneurs' agility. And also an important point linked to our civilization is the historical openness and the growth potential that Morocco offers to any kind of business in the world. I want to just tell you that in terms of competitivity, I think that Morocco is a strategic and competitive expert and hub of the region. As I told you, we are linked to, we are the door of an important market with 1.3 consumers, and also we are the only African country that have a free trade agreement with the United States. So I think that Morocco can play an important strategic role between Israel and the United States, and we can develop, as I told you, a common value chain, or we can develop some a part of production in Israel, another in Morocco, and also another part in the United States, and we have the possibility to do that. In the same time, in terms of sustainability, Morocco is really the African leader in the transition toward the green economy, and this orientation is clearly defined in the Moroccan new model of development. And we have an ambition plan driven by the guidance of His Majesty the King to make from Morocco one of the best or one of the most important countries in terms of sustainability, and one of these indicators that the highest train in Africa now is working with the clean energy, and that show that Morocco is moving forward to reach an important goal that and use 52% of the energy in 10 years from the renewable energy. And it's really important for Morocco and also for the region, because I think that we can also export green energy, and also, why not, we can have a strong connection between Morocco and Israel and the region to bridge to have a bridge, correct and pragmatic bridge, to export also energy to Israel. I think also that Morocco can allow to Israeli investors or exporters to benefit from a large scale of free trade agreements with the European Union, and also with Africa and the United States and many other countries, and that can help us to develop some common companies that with the Moroccan and the Israeli identity to shift the gear and develop many opportunities for the Moroccan and Israeli youth. So the situation is really clear. We are together stronger, and I think that we should also invest on this amazing background to make from this Moroccan and Israeli collaboration an important opportunity for new generations to live in good conditions, and also to have strong opportunities for peace and security. Peace and security are the password for the future, and we should develop economic relations to ensure the existence of peace and security. If we want to initiate a strong process of collaboration in the future, we have to give good indicators for the new generations that when we work together, we are stronger. And I think that in the future, we can have more opportunities to talk about every point, to explain every point, and to meet to have some meetings between Moroccans and Israeli. And when we will ensure the success the relations between Morocco and Israel, many countries will join, because at least we have to develop our big home, which is MENA region, and this home will be absolutely the best way to live well and to have good opportunities for the new generations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Najib. And I just really want to applaud your resilience in attending and speaking at this event, even though you are super sick. And Dr. Najib spent the whole day in the hospital today. Unfortunately, he has COVID. And so we wish you a very speedy recovery and really salute you for showing up today.
I wanna remember. I wanna just talk about a professor who was my professor in the primary school, and when in the end all of the session with him, he played for us Enrico Macias, and with Enrico Macias we discovered the beautiful words of Hatikva. And I still remember Olog Balevav Beni Mani Fish Yehudi Kadima. And I think that it's really important to salute how Morocco is really a strong country, and we are the first country to recognize the Jewish culture in our civilization in the constitution, and we are also the first country in the region that introduce some lessons about the Jewish culture. And I think it's also in the future we have to work on that and invest on that. Thank you very much.
You know, my friends in Israel joke around that the problems in Morocco are so deep because this sort of interdependence and this synergy between the Moroccan Muslim and Jewish communities is so deep that we both just long for one another. And I just want to briefly mention the Morocco Now investment initiatives that was launched by the government last year. And if Dr. Najib, you could just talk to us a little bit very briefly about that, because we do have to move on to our next speakers and we are running late, but I'm just going to share my screen to show the initiative very quickly. There we go. So this, can you guys see what I'm showing you? This is the Morocco Now platform. Dr. Najib, can you hear me?
Yes.
Beautiful. So if you can just quickly tell people what Morocco Now is and why it comes at such a critical time today.
Yeah, first of all, Morocco Now is a new brand that support this dynamism of Morocco in terms of developing the business climate in Morocco, and also in developing new positioning in the market. This brand will help the local companies to work and to export more to the new markets and to benefit from the new positioning of our country. I think that it's also an opportunity that help the companies to develop the quality, to develop the way of production, and also to find new market and to have a new positioning in this regional supply chain, and also in the African, European, and all the global market. Morocco Now can also give an opportunity to companies to know how Morocco is a good place to invest, and how Morocco can help many companies in the world to grow up and to benefit from the positioning of the regional positioning, and also the access to the most important market in the world. Is, as I told you, is 1.3 billion of consumers. This is the African market, and also with the many large scale of sectors like pharmaceutical. Morocco is the first country in Africa that will produce the COVID vaccine, and we have a strong platform. Morocco is the most important aerospace industry zone in the country, and I think that we can also work on this sector We have also textile, automobile industry. We export more than some countries that export oil in the region, just in terms of automobile industry. And we have an important hub that can be developed for the future for smart cars industry, like for example in the region between Casablanca and Kenitra. And we have a new zone, a new important zone in the Moroccan Sahara, which is Dakhla region, with an important port linked to that link Morocco to the economic the Atlantic economic zone between London and Sao Paulo. It's a zone that allow to all the countries to have easy access to the mini market, and also to benefit from the ecosystem in terms of industry and services that offer Morocco. So Morocco now is a really good initiative that facilitate the many issues. And I think that what we have to do now is to present this initiative in the Israeli investors and the Israeli companies, to find some possible partnership between the two companies to benefit from the new order of COVID. And I think that we have many common points in the future.
Thank you so
thank you,
much.
Dr. Najib. Thank you, Dr. Najib. And as we say here in Hebrew, we wish you refuah shlema. We wish you much health, and that you recover quickly from the COVID. And I'm probably going to butcher it, but we also wish you and all those who celebrate Asgaz Amagaz. Did I say it right?
Asgaz Amgaz. Happy
Asgaz.
New Year. Happy Amazir New Year.
Happy Amazir New Year to all those
And
who
it's
celebrate it. Yes.
and get this done. It's year 2172.
Wow, I have a lot to learn about all of this, but I think I have a very good teacher in this. So now we're going to move on to the last section of tonight's event, and we have two more fantastic speakers. We looked at the scope of things, we looked at the analytics and the statistics and the possibilities. We'll now look at the feasibility of projects, what initiatives are being implemented today to support Moroccan-Israeli economic cooperation with two leading businessmen, two practitioners in the field. We have with us Jonathan Medved and Mr. Steve Ohana. So Jonathan will go first. John Medved is the founder and CEO of Our Crowd, a leading equity crowdfunding platform that connects its crowd of accredited investors to funding startup investments. John is a serial entrepreneur, a venture capitalist, and an angel investor in Israel's high-tech scene. He was named as one of the 50 most influential Jews by the Jerusalem Post, where he was dubbed the Startup Nation's Guru. John, thank you so much for coming on the event tonight. We know your platform, Our Crowd, back when the first part of the Abrahamic Accords were announced with the UAE, was one of the path breakers. You paved the way for Israel-UAE economic cooperations when those relations were announced. And I've seen from looking that you've already begun paving the way also for investment and collaboration between Morocco and Israel. So we'd be glad to hear what you've seen, your thoughts, your lessons already, what you can share with us, what you think the biggest areas for potential, what plans are already underway, and maybe a little bit about how business and investment can be a platform to bolster peaceful ties by spreading jobs and prosperity between the peoples of our countries.
Great. Thank you, Ned. Thank you, Shama. I'm very happy to be here. I want to give you a little bit of a background about what's going on in the Israel high-tech sector. You know us probably as the startup nation. What's happening is that we're now moving from startups to scale-ups. The amount of money that's pouring into Israeli high-tech is simply astounding. This past year, in 2021, it's over $25 billion, which, as you can see, is up from 10 billion the year before. I thought that was pretty good. My prediction is that this year, the number will only increase. Now, as an investor, I'm interested not just in investment, but also in what are called exits, which are the realizations, because most what we do as venture capitalists is to put money into illiquid private companies. And so you want to get them public. You want to get up there and ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange or the equivalent in Israel. And that number went wild last year to 80 billion plus in terms of exits. Now, this is being driven by the explosion of what was once a very mythical and rare animal called the unicorn. And today, it's not so rare anymore. In Israel, there are actually about, I think, over 80 now. This is a couple of months old. And these, have a combined value of close to $200 billion. Now, it turns out that, it used to be that if you sold your company in Israel for a couple $100 million, people were excited. Then it was like you had to be $1 billion company. Now the talk is 10 billion. And in fact, just the news was broken just a couple of weeks ago that Intel, which had bought Mobileye, which, speaking of automotive, is the world leader in technology for collision avoidance and for autonomous driving. They bought it for 16 billion 4 years ago, and now they're taking it public for a $50 billion valuation. We predict that by the end of the decade, there will be several companies from Israel with these kinds of valuations. Now, we built our crowd to become a global platform for investors to invest in innovation all over the world in a variety of areas. We're headquartered in Jerusalem, Israel, offices in Herzliya and Tel Aviv, and in 12 cities around the world on every continent at the moment. And we, as you mentioned, have been very active in terms of supporting the Abrahamic Accords. We have a new office operating in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. We'll talk to you more about that in a little bit. Our growth at our crowd is pretty remarkable. We're now managing close to $2 billion. We've made, actually, some of these numbers are out of date, but over 300 individual company investments. And we have actually 35 funds and about 200,000 investors who come from all over the world. If you'd like to join us, all you have to do is go to ourcrowd.com. It's pretty easy to sign up. Actually, in this past year, 110,000 new investors did sign up, and that's about 400% growth. And our total investments this year were about $500 million, which again is about 100% growth. And according to PitchBook, the authoritative data collector, we're the most active venture investor in Israel. Here you can see how our growth is taking off, and we're pretty excited to see this kind of response to our platform. Lately, by the way, we just received an investment from SoftBank, which of course is the largest venture capital investor in the world, and they just took a stake in the Our Crowd platform. Now, when you look at the way that we're structured to provide capital in a variety of areas. And what's remarkable about the Israeli tech economy is you have activity in healthcare, in mobility, in cybersecurity, of course, in all kinds of software, fintech, food tech, drones, agriculture, cannabis, etc. And when you look at this kind of these are our portfolio companies. On the right side are our funds. It turns out that the number of intersections or potential connections between these areas and Morocco, it is striking. And so our prediction is that there will be activity literally in almost every one of these areas. There's no question that Israel and Morocco are going to work together on healthcare. There is no question that fintech, given Morocco's strength as a banking center for all of Africa, tremendous fintech interest. Morocco's automobile industry has been mentioned. That's going to be important. Morocco in food and agriculture, you're a power. We're going to do a lot together. In energy and renewables, a lot. In cannabis, Morocco and Israel are going to do a lot. And obviously in cybersecurity and e-commerce, literally hard to find an area where I don't think there is important potential between Morocco and Israel. Now, we noticed the potential in the region well before the Abraham Accords. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've built many businesses. I've been a venture capitalist for now almost 4 decades in Israel. And I started doing business in the Arab world and in the region almost 13, 14 years ago. I just felt it was time to do so. And I found that even without the formal diplomatic ties, the openness, the hospitality, the interest in understanding how to work together was very, very strong. So when the accords were announced, we raced to open up an office and start activity in the Gulf. We got a lot of coverage. And in fact, I predicted on CNBC, literally a couple of weeks after the announcement, that there would be $10 billion in bilateral investments between the UAE and Israel. Well, it turns out that I was criticized by some of my people who thought I was being a little bit over the tips of my skis and a little bit too optimistic. Well, guess what? 1 year later, the Minister of Economy of the UAE has now predicted $1 trillion. So I guess I wasn't that, let's say, overly excited. This is an exciting number. Now, I don't know if we can reach that kind of a number with the UAE or with Morocco, but I believe there is very significant opportunity for both of our countries. We have just recently become the first official Israeli venture capital platform to be operating formally in Abu Dhabi. We've opened up shop in ADGM, the Abu Dhabi Global Markets. We're now being regulated by their financial authority, and we do expect that in the not too distant future, we'll be opening up a similar office in Morocco. We are already engaged in all kinds of discussions. We'd like to widen those discussions. If you have projects or topics to discuss with us, please do talk to us. I'm going to give you just a couple of specific examples, and then I'll be happy to answer questions either now in real time or via email about companies that I think can really play a role. We have a company called Air Robotics, which is one of the world's leading companies in autonomous drones. You can see that it has a completely self-sufficient, call it landing base. And these drones do not require operators or people. They can literally fly, come back, change batteries, get new sensors. And what's really exciting is they've just signed a joint venture with another Israeli company called Solar Drone. And they are going to be using these drones to literally clean solar energy panels automatically, which is a huge problem because as they get dirty, they lose 30, 35, even 40% of their efficiency. It's very hard to get people to get in there and clean them. Drones are perfect, especially autonomous ones. But moreover, because of its features, it's being used actually now by the Dubai police for security at the Dubai Expo. And we think that this would be a very exciting project to work with a huge country like Morocco, where you have all kinds of border issues and whatnot that we should definitely be talking about. In the healthcare area, we have several companies that we should be engaged with Morocco. One is a company called Migvax, which is now working on the first oral booster, which will work with any of the existing vaccines and literally will be a low cost, no refrigeration, and it's going to start clinical trials very shortly. We have another company called Sanotize, who've made a little nose spray, which is based on Nobel Prize winning science about nitric oxide, and it actually kills the virus in the nose, proven in clinical trials. Or a company like Site Diagnostics, which is using artificial intelligence to do point of care blood work, CBC, complete blood count, in 10 minutes. This is starting to take off all around the world, a great solution for a country like Morocco. In the cybersecurity and fintech areas, which, by the way, are the two strongest areas in Israeli tech, it turns out that billions were invested in both fintech and in cybersecurity in the past year. We have several companies that should be working with Moroccan partners. Companies like Daily Pay, who are enabling low-paid workers to get access to their money every day so that they don't have to wait till the end of the month. They don't have to borrow money from loan sharks. It's a really important company. Companies like BioCatch, who are using biometric profiling to actually authenticate people and to fight fraud. We can know who you are by how you hold your cell phone or how you type on your desktop. Or a company like ThetaRay, also using artificial intelligence to prevent fraud, especially in correspondent banking transactions, such as go on all the time in Morocco with your partners in the rest of Africa. In the food and agri-tech area, companies like Sufresca, who are essentially providing an edible coating which extends shelf life for weeks for fruits and vegetables. Again, a big potential in Morocco. Companies like Tevel, which are using drones to automatically harvest fruits and off the tree, or companies like Ripple that are leading the way in alternative protein. We're investors in Beyond Meat, and we have a huge portfolio of alternative protein companies. This is sort of a look at some of our food and ag tech investments, many of them, I think, of great interest. And that's it for us for now. And I hope that we'll get a chance to see you soon in Morocco. As soon as this blows over, I want to get there. And I want to salute Sharaka and all that you're doing to build these important ties. I want to give recognition to His Royal Highness, the King of Morocco, who I think has had incredible leadership of your country, and looking forward to building great ties between our two countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Medved. You know, when I see just how much potential there is through your presentation for solving real problems for the majority of people, like that's what gets me so excited. And I didn't want you to stop. I was like, just keep telling me all of this information. This is all really incredible. And I hope to see its implementation in the very near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. That was truly fascinating. The kind of technology that comes out of Israeli tech is simply astounding in how it solves, like you said, it solves real world problems. Things that we don't even think about are problems. The plastic, right? The plastic wrapping and how much litter and landfill space and how much it can help the environment also. Our next speaker and our last speaker for the evening is Mr. Steve Ohana, the head of the Morocco Israel Business Council at CGEM, the General Confederation of Moroccan Enterprises. Steve grew up in Casablanca and has been leading multiple businesses and industries. Do we have Steve with us? How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you. What about you?
Well, we're doing fantastic. Thank you so much. Welcome to our event tonight. We're so glad to have you with us. I have to ask you, as a Jewish Moroccan, I assume you also maybe been involved in Israel-Morocco economic ties for quite some time, maybe before it was cool. How do you perceive your mission as president of the Morocco Israel Business Council, and what can you tell us maybe that's been going on for a while, and where things, the potential of where things could be headed?
Well, I mean, thank you very much for inviting me. I want to thank you and thank Shama, and I'm very pleased to be part of the webinar today. But within what you just asked me, there are two sides to the question. The first one, you asked me as a Jewish Moroccan, what do I feel? But I would like just to correct and say that I cannot answer that way. I can only answer as a Moroccan Jew, since in Morocco we have a feeling of citizenship that is so strong that we cannot mix citizenship and religion. So I've always defined myself as a nationality and not as a religion. So that's why I'm a Jew, but that's why I define myself as a Moroccan, because it's my citizenship. Now, regarding my business council, of course, I'll be very happy to go now and to give you the best answer possible. As you know, we just celebrate the first anniversary of the Abrahamic Accords between Morocco and Israel that led to a real economic dynamic that we didn't have before. Those accords got a warm welcome in Morocco. And right after the signing, the General Confederation of Morocco Enterprises, which is called CGM, is the only official body representing the private enterprises in the kingdom. And its Israeli counterparts, the Manufacturers Association of Israel and the Federation of the Israel Chamber of Commerce, signed a strategic partnership agreement to work together in order to, first of all, strengthen the trade and promote business partnership between the two countries. For this reason, the Morocco Israel Business Council, that was created at the initiative of the president of CGM, Mr. Shakib Aj. The Business Council's team works on a daily basis to help and support Moroccan and Israeli companies to achieve all the expectations that are numerous. We are packed every day with a lot of demands from both sides. And through those demands, we noticed a very strong interest in many sectors, such as health, water, energy, industry, technology, tourism, and agriculture. So there are many opportunities to be seized. For the last 2 decades, Morocco has accelerated its transformation, making it one of the most attractive investment destinations in the world. Morocco today is in the top 50 in the Doing Business ranking. Under the guidance of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, may God assist him, several reforms were implemented in order to preserve the stability of the country's institutional and macroeconomic framework. A massive development of infrastructure and technology was also achieved. Morocco also adopted targeted sectoral policies, resulting in recognizing success stories in sectors like automotive, aeronautics, with very efficient professional training programs. Speaking about the human capital, Morocco has trained a very highly qualified workforce from engineer to workers. We are very happy to see the dynamic of cooperation between Morocco and Israeli University. As a matter of fact, our great university, Mohammed VI Polytechnique, which is called UM6P, did sign partnership with the Technion in Haifa and the Ben Gurion University. The Kingdom of Morocco is also a gateway to Africa thanks to its competitiveness and financial platform, Casablanca Finance City. We also have 60 free trade agreements within different countries, and Morocco is now implementing, under the vision of His Majesty the King Mohammed VI, may God glorify him, a new development model that includes strategic projects for a greener and more inclusive and innovative economy. Furthermore, Morocco enjoys a geographical position and political stability, without forgetting that it is a country, which is very important to know, that Muslims and Jews have always had a relationship of coexistence fed by friendship and mutual respect. Going back to the Business Council attributes, we are very pleased to inform you, and by the way, I don't know if John Medvedev is here to inform our crowd, that we are organizing a Moroccan Israeli Innovation Summit on March 16 in Ben Guerir, which is next to Marrakesh, at the University Mohammed VI Polytechnique, and we'll be very happy to welcome you to this event. I think I covered more or less what I have to say. And everything should be said and available to you on the platform that should be ready by next week, and it should be the platform of the Moroccan Business Israeli Business Council. I'd be very happy to answer any kind of questions you do have, and to see you very soon in Morocco. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. That was fantastic, and gives me a lot of hope hearing you and hearing John and hearing all the speakers tonight about, I think, truly an incredible amount of potential that we can have between these two economies and the role that it can play in bolstering these peace accords. Shama?
Yes, thank you so much. That was very informative, and we look forward to having you and others from this issue and participate in our future discussions. You know, we're facilitating these conversations once a week, every Thursday at the same time. And next week, we're doing a conversation on technology and agriculture and the intersections of both. Before we close, I just want to quickly respond to a question that we received, which is about language. Simon Skira asked why we're not doing this in French. We chose to do this in English in order to facilitate the conversation between multiple different partners across the world. However, we are planning to translate these videos into classical Arabic and Hebrew, and I might as well use this opportunity to send out a call for people. If you would like to help us in this translation effort in order to make these discussions more accessible to the general population, to the populace, then please join us. We need all the help we can get in translating these videos. And of course, when we're talking about Moroccan Israelis, the majority of them are Hebrew speaking and don't speak English specifically. And when we're talking about the business landscape in Morocco, it's mostly French or Moroccan speaking. So of course, we want to make sure that these videos and these discussions are accessible to people. And if you want to help us do that, that'll be amazing. So thank you so much for the person who asked that question. Dan, do you see any other questions that I haven't addressed? If we don't have any other questions, then we would like to just kind of remind you that if you want to get involved with Sharaka, we will put our emails here. And if you want to stay in touch on our next events, please follow us or get in touch or send us an email. My email is shamamishtali@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook at Shama Mishtali and Instagram at millennialmore and Twitter at cmishtali. And Dan, anything on how you can find us?
Sharaka is very easy to get a hold of. Of course, you can go to our website, sharakang.com. And of course, all our social media. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can look us up at Sharaka NGO. Feel free to reach out to us. Our email is info@sharakang.com. And really follow Shama, follow us for updates on, of course, this series of events. As we said, next week, same time, same place, January 20th, 8 p.m. Israel, 7 p.m. Morocco, 1 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We remind you that Sharaka is a nonpartisan, non-political, non-governmental organization that is working to shape a new Middle East with partners from across the region, from around the Arab world and Israel, working together. If you like what you saw and you wish to help us expand our efforts, support our efforts, we invite you to contact us. We, of course, would appreciate any support. If you want to be a part of advancing peace and cooperation in the region, again, you are welcome to contact us across our social media platforms or on our email, info@sharakang.com. We thank you all for joining us tonight. Shama, thank you so much for all your work in this. You are a tremendous partner to work with. And again, wishing a happy Amazigh New Year to all those out there.
Yes.
And we will see you all next week when we come back to talk about tech and agriculture and lots of more exciting opportunities for these wonderful relations between Morocco and Israel. Take care,
Thank you.
everybody.